That's how good some of these people are at this game. They just feel their way through the matchups. Anyways, game one getting underway here.
All right,
You
Hunter.
can see right away Hunter versus Druid. So I think hyped. I think he might. This is just a safe pick. I would assume that Drew is going to be led here, and Forsen. I think this is the safest pick he could have made. Again, he doesn't want to cue his warrior into that. That's for sure. And a pretty fantastic start right off the bat. He's not only got the coin, but he's got Undertaker, and he's got a death rattle to go with it. 2 death rattles to go with it. Excuse me. Even Snake Trap to start protecting him. Snake Trap can come. Wow, an Ancient Watcher in hype deck. This is something I haven't seen in quite a while. So
does he run Spellbreaker then?
I
like
think
an additional silence.
He runs it. I think there's a good chance he runs it, but it also could just be that he's running Sun Furies and Defenders of Argus. That's a possibility as well. Again, taunting up a Spectral Knight, that's one of the best ways to beat Hunter. Because they can't Hunter's Market, they can't kill Command it, they have to actually push through the minions. Wailing Soul!
This is cool!
Wow.
Oh my goodness! What? Okay, so next turn, he can innervate Spectral Knight and then Defender of Argus. Is that too slow? Is that too slow for what Hunter can do to you?
It doesn't feel very slow to me. That feels pretty fast. But Undertaker's growing fast as well. A lot of damage coming from Forsen's side of the board. I think this next draw is really going to determine a lot for Hyped.
There is that Hunter's Mark, but if you taunt up Spectral Knight, they have to go through the hard way, which is very difficult. Forsen taking his time, making sure he gets everything. Ooh, Sunfury Protector is a nice draw, too.
Yeah. No surprise to see that, I think, once you see Ancient Watcher. I would expect there to be more taunts.
Yep. So then what does he take out? What does he take out? That's the curious part. Does he take out... I think maybe the Cairn. Cairn could be too slow.
I'm guessing there's no Haunted Reaper.
Right.
I'm guessing there's no Shaded Naxxramas. Both of those cards seem really poor with Wailing Soul in your deck.
Shaded Naxxramas into Wailing Soul.
Bam! Got him. 2-2. You didn't see that one coming, did you? I wouldn't be surprised to just see a Sunfury Protector here either. Innervate, I think even Innervate Wailing Soul has some merits to it, so you can just pick off the Undertaker now, so it's not a problem. But
actually, I like that too. I like that even more, perhaps. But Spectral Knight is also very mana efficient, and Druid, your curve is really important to make sure you protect as much as you can for the next couple of turns.
Yeah, I agree with you. Spectral Knight, of course, not. I mean, that's not a bad play here at all. That's still a pretty big looming threat. Again, it's something that Hunter has a pretty tough time dealing with. No kill commands and no Hunter's Marks. That's really the key to that spell. Is Hunter has these very powerful disruption tools that it can back up its early game with. That's one of the reasons it's so powerful. But Spectral Knight really taking away a lot of that potential. But Undertaker's already become a chill one Yeti.
Oh.
And it's only going to continue to get bigger. Mad Scientist going straight for face.
And if Hype just has another Innervate, he could piece together potentially a game-sealing turn, but he just can't afford everything here.
I would be stunned if this didn't attack the Undertaker. Yeah. It's got to be dealt with now. I mean, if it grows one more time, it's just out of control.
Right. Which it could have with the Mad Scientist in hand. And it seems like Forsen will go for a Hunter's Mark, Knife Juggler play, which he's got lots of targets lined up. He can go for a board clear.
Yep. That's exactly what he's going to do.
No, Defender's not it. Wow. Bad juggles all around.
Not the worst juggles, though. I mean, still, Mad Scientist is still going to pick off the Spectral Knight. Web Spinner's going to get another card in the hand. He's going to be able to follow this up with a trap, but again, that trap, the Snake Trap, that could be a problematic card. This is one of the spots I was a little bit worried about, is that Swipe can get so much value against Snake Trap. Like, this is one of the only matchups where I feel like Snake Trap can be a tremendous liability, is in this matchup alone. So a lot of power between Snake Trap and Knife Juggler, but with a Swipe clearing out the board, it's like you're back on even footing. So the Hunter has done a lot of work on life totals, but this is where Druid wants to be. It wants to get the board clear and then rely on its bigger spells to be able to get the job done.
Yeah, it's too bad that Snake Trap doesn't activate if you attack the face, and you can't stop Druid from comboing to the face or just avoiding it altogether, because they have many ways to remove minions without actually attacking it.
Yep. Oh, do you go for the mad scientist here, or do you go for the knife juggler? Do you think?
The snipe.
No, with this defender of Argus, which one do you think you attack?
Oh, what depends on what other traps you feel like he has, but knife juggler is always the bigger threat, isn't it?
I think
Versus
so, but I
mad
mean,
scientist is a latent threat.
you're almost certainly going to be swiping this turn, right? Oh wow, look at this.
Choosing to attack face, so it's gonna. I mean, swipe plus the cleanup next turn is also strong. Your opponent's on 2 cards. Oh, it's a freezing trap as well. It's not a snake trap.
Oh, I didn't actually even see freezing trap get down.
It was mad scientist.
Oh, from the mad
Activated.
scientist draw.
That's right.
Okay. Only one secret available for visibility.
So Hype was playing around all secret possibilities, and now he gets Defender of Arcus, which is could be really valuable. Any taunt giver against Hunter is very effective.
Again, I'm gonna be taking a lot of damage here, though. Dropping to 12.
Oof.
Looking not too bad though.
Yeah, because now if you pop Snake Trap, you can swipe to clean it up.
Yep.
Even taunt.
All right, so
It's
this
still
turn
a little
feels
tricky
good.
though.
Yep.
Oh, something interesting I noticed that Forsen picked up the scavenging hyena from the web spinner, so he actually has ways to synergize with it. Love it when that works out perfectly. Like you somehow get a buzzard or hyena off the web spinner, even if buzzard's 5 mana, it just conveniently works out that way.
This was a deliberate non-attack from this Keeper of the Grove, right?
Yes.
Okay.
If it's freezing trap number 2, you want Sun Fury Protector back.
Yeah. Or just even more to that point, you just want extra taunt on the board. You don't want to sacrifice both your taunt from this.
Sure. Look at that. Wailing Soul has its use. I think maybe Hype was inspired by that Reddit post.
Was there an Ancient Watcher or Wailing Host post that was made?
No, it was like the many uses of Wailing Soul, and it was talking about all these incredibly situational scenarios where Wailing Soul was super effective, but in this place, it just looks like you just need a good old-fashioned body, 3/5 body.
Yep. Kill command, taking out the 2/4. And now only down to 9 points of health, and Forsen's still at 30. So I feel like he's starting to gain control of the board, but it might be a little bit too late. 9 is not a healthy life total. No ancients of lore to gain back some of that health. I would be very surprised to see Ancient of War in this deck after seeing Wailing Soul and Sun Fury Protector and Defender of Argus. Like that's obviously I think the taunt he's relying on.
Yeah, he needs that Ancient of Lore to heal, give him that small window. But he's got Force of Nature, so if he pairs together Savage Roar and he has some semblance of a board, the game could end very quickly.
All right, here comes the attack.
Yeah, it is Snake Trap. Now, Forsen has no cards, by the way.
I think this is really good news in Hype's situation, by the way. The swipe's going to clear the board. He's going to start to restabilize this. I think that's all pretty good news for him, is that wasn't a second freezing trap, and that it was, in fact, Snakes. Snakes was the worst trap there, of course, for Forsen. It was basically a dead card, because swipe was very likely to happen that turn anyway. I think his backup plan was to Force of Nature in case it was a second freezing trap.
Oh,
just a lowly Undertaker.
That is a poor draw. Oh,
wow,
he's got
Cenarius. All right, that second secret, of course, making a pretty big difference in this game. That Mad Scientist, whatever that fetched, that definitely going to be a big difference in this game. So he's got to, again, think through his turns. Like, how does each trap affect his attacks differently? Like, what does he have to do to stay alive? Is this potentially just Defender of Argus Pass?
Yeah, that is a possibility, because Cenarius would allow you to put out taunts again to answer the Undertaker. And you're still gaining a health, so the Hunter power, hero power, isn't as effective as it would be against classes like Shaman, where you feel like you're in a very real clock. Kill command being picked up, though, is a very important draw. Forsen just needs to pair together another beast. Animal Companion would probably be his best bet, assuming his opponent doesn't have more taunts.
Yeah, for sure. Second kill command wouldn't be bad either. Check for trap.
Okay.
Gets the news that it is some sort of minion-based trap. So either a freezing trap or another snake trap, which both of those he wants to avoid right now. So he's very happy to just taunt this up and kind of go from there. Forsen, of course, he's faced with a choice of whether or not he just wants to kill command that and go ahead. So
Harrison Jones. Wow, we are learning a lot about Hype's deck.
Yeah, this is very tuned for Warrior. It looks like a lot of problematic situations coming out. This is where you'll see Hype start to make a big push for the game. By the way, is because he doesn't have to worry about stuff like explosive traps. So he's free to just make taunts and then continue to go for the face. And look how much damage he's got set up. And Forsen, even though he's got his opponent down to 7, he needs a way to get out of this. Steady shot.
He didn't draw a beast. He didn't draw a beast with this kill command. He drew a leopard gnome instead. Wow, Hype needs something really big. Life gain or Savage Roar.
Yeah, doesn't get either of them. So this Azure Drake needs to draw the right card.
What can it draw?
Well, again, it can draw Savage Roar. That would be just enough to kill his opponent. Zombie Chow will not be it, though. And he doesn't have a silence to clear out the Leopard Gnome either. And even if he did, he'd be put just low enough from kill command on 3 points of damage and hero power.
That's right. So that should be it then. There's no way for Hype to climb back out of this one.
Yep.
And unfortunately, with no more draws and no more damage.
Yeah, falling just short too. Again, he just took a little bit too much damage early game, but I don't think he had a sufficient way to avoid that. I think it's just sort of a consequence of the game. Is he's going to die to taking too much damage early. Didn't have the right tools to deal with it. A pretty strong start, I think, but a much stronger start, of course, from Forsen and getting a 4/5 Undertaker active. And going from there, chooses to hero power, but again, not enough. Leopard Gnome, the 2 damage from that, it can suicide itself and deal 2 points damage, hero power, and then kill command.
All right, well, we can see on Forsen's POV that he's got the kill command and he's solid lethal. No missed lethal, at least in game number 1.
He's 1 damage over.
Yep. He was 1 damage over.
Yep. Making up for
he even had Animal Companion.
Just to rub it in.
Yep. He's got him covered 3 over this time around. So Hype loses his Druid, which is unfortunate considering that he did need this Druid deck to take out classes like the Warrior, right? If you can get that Ancient Watcher started, you can get the Spectral Knights working, you'd be really effective against it. But Hype still has his Miracle Rogue, and he also has his Warrior deck, 2 classes where he's also well versed in. I expect him to go Warrior here, but I've also seen Hype surprise me in the past by going classes where he feels more comfortable in the matchup as opposed to the traditional matchup.
Yeah, depending on what kind of rogue this is, it wouldn't surprise me to see that run into this Hunter deck. And of course, I think Warrior's going to fare a little bit better versus Mage than Rogue will. And so if you're gonna win this game, I think you'd rather win it with Rogue than with Warrior, because then it's going to force your opponent into playing, I think, their Mage deck. Because Warrior a lot of times can function pretty poorly versus Rogue. Miracle is it's something you don't interact with as much. Because before before Rogue had the kind of reach it had, it was a very basic build still. You were really relying on Leroy to push the final points of damage. But we've seen 2 copies of Cold Blood, sometimes even Cold Light Oracle. We're seeing Violet Teacher find its way into some Miracle decks. It has a lot more pressure to put on Warrior, a lot more damage available. This is something that we actually forgot to touch on at the beginning of the format too, by the way, is the winner can actually change their deck in the rule set.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we forgot to touch on that. That's a pretty big important part of this. So in this format, this is a little bit different than a traditional ban format where the winner has to stay with their deck. The person who won can actually change their deck if they want to. They can change it to any deck that they have not been locked on so far. So Forsen he could change to Mage, or he could change to Warrior here. I'm not sure if they announce a change, if they can actually just go with the same deck, but they do have to announce that they're changing their deck before the game actually starts.
Okay, I was not aware of that rule.
Yeah.
But I should have read the fine print.
Yeah.
It's my apologies. All right, Warrior versus the Hunter. Oh, sorry, just kidding. Forsen's the one that's playing Ward, the one he's switching
Yep.
to. I like that. That's smart. Keeping Hunter, so that way he realizes he doesn't get directly picked into it. And Hyped now has to choose another deck without a Warrior being a possibility.
Yep.
So he's going to go for the mirror match.
It's something we didn't see utilized in the first match, and something that we didn't even touch on, just because it's something that's, you know, it's that one little thing sets apart the tournament from everything else, is that it's got that one very small change in it. And Forsen utilizing it, I think, about as best as you can here. He wants to avoid just getting counterpicked.
Well, Harrison Jones is really effective both against Hunter and the Warrior. It's one of the cards that can help swing a lot. We're going to try to hop onto one POV and fix this real quick because we realize that Hype's stream is lagging a lot, so we're going to just try to jump onto one POV and make sure we stick to it.
Yeah, Armor Smith coming down early. No surprise. This hand again is really heavy. This is something we saw in the first match too, where the 8 and 9 mana cards were drawn on turn 3 and 4, and Hype's picked them up here on turns 1 and 2.
That's okay. I was busy looking at what cards are exactly in this Warrior deck. Ysera is a card that's been in and out because how powerful she can be, but how slow she is. And, you know, Hyped has this love-hate relationship because Ysera brings back memories of how at BlizzCon qualifiers he drew Ysera and Mind Control in his Priest deck against Zoo, and he just couldn't do anything. And he's like, I should have just replaced Ysera with Holy Smite. So in some scenarios, he feels like, yeah, exactly. Like the Ysera should have been a card that helps him fight off against greed or against aggro because he's greedy. But in this scenario, I think bringing Ysera and Warrior's been a pretty strong choice overall.
Yep. So really early on, I think Forsen taking a big advantage because he has Owl in his deck. You can actually see this is, so far it's very similar to the deck that Show actually got number 1 with. He played a copy of Ironbeak Owl, and he also played Hogger in his deck to try to force your opponent to use removal spells, then follow up with Hogger, and then Hogger can get a pretty insurmountable advantage once your opponent's out of strong removal spells. And so the silence, you know, it hurts him because he's not picking up extra cards, and despite how many cards he has in his hand, he doesn't really have access to all of them right now. And then your opponent's Acolyte's going to be getting such a big advantage that you have to figure out a way to do something about it. So no surprise to see Lothep here. It's pretty much the only way that I think he can begin to threaten this board. But, you know, even in this situation, he's worried about Shield Slam. He's got to be worried about Execute. You know, all of those things come into account.
Right, and as long as you exhaust the removal from Warrior, Hogger can protect against himself against whatever Warrior can do. Right.
Right.
The taunts give him such a problem with weapons, and if you exhaust all the Shield Slams and Executes, or even use him as a Shield Slam Execute baiter, then your other cards like not Harrison Jones, the Ragnaros become really strong, and Harrison Jones shuts down any weapons that can threaten as well. So Hogger does have its place. As much as we laugh and poop on him constantly in our jokes about useless legendaries.
Wow, look at this. Even Hype's playing Hogger. Everyone has jumped on the
Hogger train.
Yeah. It's the big show right now. Harrison Jones picking up a card. Fireworks belongs in the museum. Answered by Hogger though, and this can quickly get problematic. There's not another weapon in his hand. Is there merit to executing straight away?
I mean, I think you have playing your own Hogger. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really risky to do it that way. All right, we swapped over to one point of view now for now. This stream's a little bit desynced, so we're going to work on getting that lag issue fixed. In the meantime, we're going to be watching only from Hype's point of view, so Forsen's hand's going to be unknown to us for the time being. And, wow, he's actually going to drop his own Hogger.
What? This is not a tutorial, guys. That's the only time I ever seen Hogger played other than Warrior decks very recently. Huh. Okay, anyway, sorry. I'm over the mesmeration phase. There are ways to deal with these Hoggers. Both of these guys hold Executes. If Hype can remove this Hogger without blinking, though, then he's in a slight advantage, right? If you can line up your removal a little bit more efficiently with cards without having to use the direct removal spell itself, then you're sitting in a good spot.
Yeah, for sure. He is having to attack his opponent's Hogger here, though. Cruel Taskmaster and Execute, almost certainly going to be the answer. So down to one Execute left for Forsen. And now Hogger's going to begin to generate his advantage. Second Acolyte of Pain. And I mean, you're going to have to execute this Hogger. It's just going to get out of control. Shield Slam also a reasonable option at this point. I think there's a lot of merit to killing the token and to killing Hogger though, and then using the Harrison Jones to kill this Acolyte so it doesn't get too much of an advantage.
Yeah, I think so too. You want to deny your opponent the card count, especially considering that you have a lot of powerful cards like Ysera and Ragnaros waiting in hand. Deny your opponent any ability to have a response to your big threats. But unfortunately, he can't. Hogger killed off Harrison Jones. What?
It wasn't even Hogger, it was the Null token.
Yeah.
Hogger's minions have killed off Harrison Jones. Rip. Acolyte. So Sludge Belcher still do enough of a threat, I think, on this Acolyte of Pain. I think it's fine because you've seen your opponent use a Cruel Taskmaster now. But this is something that is a threat, is of course, if your opponent can Shield Slam away the Sludge Belcher, is they get more cards off of the Acolyte this way.
Yeah,
it's
I think
tough.
so.
This is the risk versus reward scenario that he put himself in, and so at this point he's falling really far behind. His opponent's got a pretty big armor advantage. There's more cards going to be picked up by this Acolyte. Ragnaros isn't even that powerful of a play right here, but I don't know what else he's got. Like, you don't want to Shield Slam the Acolyte now. It's already picked up a card, so you want to save your Shield Slam for big minions. Cruel Taskmaster, not a strong play. Not a bad one, but not a good one. It's just like, I think all of his plays are kind of bad right now. And he's just got to figure out which one's the least bad. And I'd probably venture to say that Ragnaros is the least bad of his plays.
Where does he even want to hit? He hits the face.
I think he wants to hit
shreds the armor.
Yeah, that's great. Shield Slams are no longer a major threat to Ragnaros. Your opponent would have to sacrifice their board to recover from that.
I spy with my eye through the peeping hole that a big game hunter is in the hand of Forsen, which directly answers the Ragnaros.
Is that what you saw through there? God, that's a good eye.
Thank you.
Maybe I should put my glasses on. Oh, that definitely is a big game hunter hand.
It's the best response to the Ragnaros too. I think he also has another execute from memory, which case he can draw, execute, and evaluate. But if you think your opponent's running your Sarah or other cards similar to her, you need to have execute because Shield Slam, obviously, you're too low to do it, and Big Game Hunter can't target her.
Right. I think it makes a lot of sense to use Big Game Hunter instead, even if just at the very least you're developing a 4-2. So I think what's going through his head is whether or not he should execute or whether or not he should use Big Game Hunter is fear of Baron Geddon right now, because Baron Geddon can kind of turn the table right now. It's a very good response to Big Game Hunter. It puts us another 7/5 body on the board and then clears out all the small stuff. He's got Sludge Belcher even to protect his board from weapons, and no Baron Geddon in sight for hyped. This board continues to get scarier and scarier, but he's at a pretty high life total. How much? I think you just, I was about to say, I think you just slammed the Ysera here. Like, even at this position, you're not getting all the value you want from Ysera, but there's the potential that your opponent has to lose their whole board to actually kill this, because you can't let Ysera sit there when your opponent's at 28. And of course, we saw earlier that Forsen had the second copy of Execute in his hand, so there it goes. Anything else would be uncivilized. And
I think so.
Yeah. Well, oh my gosh! And he even drew
follows
Ragnaros.
up. That is a lot of pressure. And
Wow.
we said Height was at a high life total, but now he's sitting at 11 with situational cards.
Yep.
And he can kill off Ragnaros, but at the same time, he's facing significant pressure on the other end.
He's got ways to try to start combating this board, but again, his life total is under a lot of pressure. Really huge draw from Ragnaros. Just 8 points of damage and then forcing removal spells. So shield block is going to happen first. He needs a little bit more info, and he's almost certainly going to have to shield slam this turn.
Yeah, he's got so much removal. He needs to improve his presence. Is there any way for him to use everything and drop a significant creature like, or even develop a weapon? I don't feel like he has enough mana to.
Well, if he uses second shield block and then shield slams the Ragnaros, he can't double Cruel Taskmaster, so the Big Game Hunter would live another turn this way. He could use the second shield slam after he uses the second shield block, but then he's losing a lot of his removal reach. So I think this is the best play right here, is to do this and then either drop the the Drake or the weapon. I think this is fine too. This gives you a little bit of extra armor. You do have 2 2/2s on the board, so your opponent is going to have to think about, oh, never mind, he's going to use Shield Slam.
Let's see, there's 5 damage, 16 health. There's still a threat for you to die if he has Grommash and Cool Taskmaster, but he's going to cut his losses here.
Yeah, I don't think you can play around Grommash and Cruel Taskmaster in this position. Because if your opponent has that, you're probably just going to lose anyway. Like, you're going to be so low on life. Or just even the reach that your opponent has. So I think he's trying to restabilize the board, which I think he can do. But it depends on what Forsen's picked up. You know, we've seen there's going to be another unknown draw from him.
We did see that Grommash was also in the hand of Forsen, too. So I don't think he has the Cruel Taskmaster, but perhaps he has another enabler of some kind, and he's 1 damage off lethal.
Whirlwind do it? 10? Only 15. Yeah, it'd be 1 off.
No. Yep. Shield block indicates Grommash is not coming down.
Another Sludge Belcher.
This card.
Yep. I'd go straight for the face too. No reason to. There's no reason to trade with one of these Cruel Taskmasters at the moment. Sludge Belcher's little brother for hyped though.
That's right. Same exact stats, although leaves behind a Gold Sheriff Footman.
Yep. Definitely think you should add a couple copies. I mean, hey, 5 mana, you get a 3, and you get the 1/2 right away. Come on, it's a great deal, right?
I think so. I finally got my Gold Shire Footman, by the way. Level 58 Paladin. Yep.
Has he been ready for action?
Absolutely. Hype's gonna go for Shield Block instead of going for 2 of his 4 cost cards. He's gonna reevaluate once he gets it. He draws the Acolyte of Pain, which is not really what he needed. He needed high impact. Was he looking for Baron Geddon, perhaps?
Well, I think this is fine. I think actually Acolyte's a pretty good pickup because the second Shield Slam here is going to allow these Cruel Taskmasters to stay alive and pick apart both these slimes. So if he wants to, he can Deathbite after that and then set up next turn for Acolyte of Pain. So both of those things are coming into account, but it's a matter of how much he wants to draw cards versus how much he wants to develop because he has to keep his board stabilized. Like how important the extra minions at this point. He's actually going to save extra life. This is how important his life total is to him at this point, is he doesn't want to pay 4 more to Big Game Hunter, so he's just going to pay it to the Ooze instead, and this is going to set up a pretty strong Acolyte of Pain turn for him. But he's also got options available, like he can still drop both of his 4 drops if he needs to. Harrison Jones. That's a really strong response.
Yep.
I think this is one of the
board.
This actually was probably one of the things he was thinking about too, was in the event that this gets Harrison Jonesed, he's gonna lose both of his guys anyway. So he really wants to keep it picked off instead. So the Acolyte of Pain turn no longer an option, but and the Deathbite actually pretty scary because that can take out the Tezdingo as well.
In fact, if your opponent has 1 more form of removal, like his second Shield Slam, I believe he can easily take out the Drake. Not to mention he can always just kill you with Grommash.
Yeah, so, I think this is pretty close to lethal. I think he's going to be 1 point off again if he's got Grommash in his hand because it's going to be 4 from the. Oh no, he can use the weapon and then the Death
Harrison Jones
kill
attack.
The Tezdingo.
Yeah.
I think it's extra point out of Harrison Jones. Yeah, I think it's going to do it.
There's no way for Hype to kill this off. This Harrison Jones has sealed the game. Wow, imagine that.
Both of these players showing up with a little bit of technology that's come out the past couple of days. Back to Harrison Jones because Warrior is expected to be so powerful. It's a great card against Hunter too. That's something that, that was actually one of the first reasons it was that Harrison Jones was even put into Warrior to begin with, was you triggered one of their traps. So their bow would go to 2 charges, and then you would Harrison Jones it. So you'd pick up 2 extra cards, kill a lot of the damage they were relying on having from their traps, and going from there. So if Grommash was in hand...
I believe so, because you just use the Deathbite to kill off, and then Harrison Jones to the face, and that's going to do it for game number 2. Forsen jumps up to a very comfortable 2-0 lead.
Oh, he's even going to throw in the threat in there.
That's
Gentleman
right.
hyped with the well played.
Good old Forsen.
Right wow, and a really big switch between the games. That rule coming into tremendous effect here.
Silly things in the past. And it will be Hunter. Good call. I think for the very specific reasons you mentioned, use that mage only if you must. Otherwise, just try to win without giving away secrets of what you're playing.
Yep. Something we've seen too is that a lot of rogues have been trimming out Phantom Knives. Like I've seen some versions of rogues that run no Phantom Knives in their deck. So something like Snake Trap can just be even that much more powerful in a matchup like this. 2 Earthen Ring Farseers though. That's a card that certainly is aimed at player. I'm sorry, at Hunter.
Yeah, he's not banning Hunter. He's banning the Warlock instead, and the Farseers do help up make it the health differential. Now, what kind of miracle is this, though, that we see from Hyped? Is it the control killer, or is it the one that goes for board control? And Violet Teacher heavily indicates that it's going for board control.
Yeah, I mean, just the 2 Earthen Ring Farseers says a lot about that. Like, he obviously wants to start fighting. So it makes a lot of sense to have Violet Teacher in here as well. But the rest of his deck, a little bit unknown. Two Mad Scientists, I think, is an okay start for Forsen, but I don't think Hype's disappointed to see that. You know, I think it's probably one of the better scenarios that could have happened. This Animal Companion going to be really important. If that's Leok, oh, it's Huffer instead, and that's a lot of damage. I think Misha was probably the worst one for him, but I mean, all 3 of the Animal Companions are really bad, honestly. He doesn't have an Eviscerate for something like Huffer. He's just going to have to sacrifice his Earthen Ring Farseer here to deal with that. So it's already dealt 4 points of damage. Earthen Ring is only able to offset a couple points of that. It's no Violet Teacher's coming down. So the 2 Auctioneers, a little bit unfortunate to pick up both of them here. So I think at this point in the game that Forsen has an edge. He's just got a lot of development, he's got a lot to back it up, and he's got a lot of damage that's pushing here.
Oof. Yeah, the tempo is on his side. He's got so much damage pouring in every turn, and he also has the traps that will be able to disrupt whatever his opponent's doing. Hyped need something here.
Strong Death Rattles are really put a big hurt on a deck like Rogue, where Rogue is focused so much on just small disruption spells to keep your opponent off balance. But when your opponent's getting value out of their minions dying, it's like a two-edged sword. It's like, which way do you want to go? Do you want to kill other minions and give them value from their death rattles, or do you want to just continue to take the damage? And you have to eventually do something about it. So you'd rather kill them sooner than later, but they continue to get value even after their death. And that's something, I think that's probably what's put Hunter a little bit over the top, is that it just continues to get pressure even through these kinds of scenarios.
And not to mention the traps, the elusive traps of what is it? He has Blade Flurry, so that's some AoE. He sees it's not Snake Trap, which is actually very disconcerting, because then if it was Snake Trap, he'd be able to use Blade Flurry to clear. Instead, he's going to have to use Shiv, take out this Mad Scientist, reevaluate based off his draw.
So when he learns it's not Snake Trap, I think it's really, really likely that it's Freezing Trap. So, a really obvious good-looking play was to Shiv the other Mad Scientist, put your Violet Teacher into the Haunting Creeper, and then Blade Flurry afterwards. Right. But if that's a Freezing Trap, that's not the position he wants to be in. Like, he wants to obviously trigger the Freezing Trap, either with the token or an Earthen Ring Farseer. Chooses to prep just to get more tokens on the board too. Wow, did he knock it off the Cold Blood in time?
Oh, I don't think he did.
Wow. So preparation was you. Wait, did he use preparation? That's what he used, right?
He used Shiv, prep, and then he tried a Cold Blood, but he ran out of time. Instead, he used Farseer. And losing that preparation is the 1 mana loss, but also that token, like you mentioned. You needed that token to pop a trap.
Yeah, so second trap hits down now. So he's pretty aware that this Earthen Ring Farseer is almost certainly going to trigger a Freezing Trap. And then it's a matter of what the second trap is. And it looks to me in this position like it's Snake Trap.
Yeah, not to mention that it also gives damage to the bow. And that gives more longevity to his damage potential. That is not good for Hyped.
Yeah, so you saw he was really concerned here with keeping his Earthen Ring Farseer on the board. Obviously, the Battle Cry on it is a good effect, but he's going to actually try to look to end this game before that point.
He's got Cold Blood in hand. If he can shove damage right back at his opponent and force him to be in a tough spot.
He was even trying to use the Mad Scientist to trigger a second Snake Trap to try to clear out his board, trying to do as much damage as possible to his opponent's board position. I think he's still left in a pretty decent spot, though. So Cold Blood
Yeah.
on this token, and now some damage is going to start getting through. So
Do you conceal at all?
I think you do.
Wow.
Wow, how good would Unleash the Hounds be right now?
That's game ending. Just unleash the hounds full board into a My Greetings.
Yep, so he's got 1 turn to kill his opponent right now. I actually don't think he's got the damage for this. 3, 8, 11, 14. He's got 15 points of damage on the board. Wow, another trap he's got to face through, too.
It can
So
be
that-
something as simple
yeah.
as explosive trap to shut down the game.
Yeah. I think the game's pretty much shut down anyway. He's only down. He's got 6 points of health left, so he's got to figure out a way to fight through this. Not sure this is winnable because he's got to kill both of these web spinners too. But that's kind of a good thing because I think you'd rather develop these other minions. Like he can't even play Azure Drake right now, so one of these minions has to get off the board. But which
Yeah.
trap is it?
I don't
Like if-
know.
Like if it's a freezing trap, you want your Earthring Farseer back in hand, I imagine.
Nope.
It's a snake trap instead.
I guess you can go 1 for 1 with all of them. But there's so much damage waiting with this bow. And you've already used both of your Farseers. When you use Violet Teachers in this deck, you're taking out the Shadow Steps. Like, your opponent has to draw completely dead off these web spinners and not have kill command.
Yep.
That is a tall order, but I feel like Forsen has way too many outs here.
Yep.
Stone Tusk Boar ends the game.
Yeah. Any extra point of damage right now. He's got 3, 4, 5 available, but Hyped's got lethal on the board next turn. So if Forsen doesn't draw a point of damage this game and he can't fend off anything, that is game. But almost everything he can use to fend off his opponent's board at this point is also a point of damage. So if he's just got 4 minions in his hand that don't do anything, that's going to be it.
What does he have? What does he draw on? What does he get off his web spinners? I mean, even if they're just anything to stall the game, that also might be beneficial too. But Hype does have that way to climb back with the thin window of Gadget Sand.
Yep. Oh, we're having some lag issues, it looks like, too.
Yeah, Hype stream seems to have frozen. No! Uh-oh.
All right, well, a little bit of picnic basket. We're bringing it right back, though. Panic basket.
Wait,
Wow,
what?
so Taunted's
Hype
up.
won somehow?
Okay, so here's what it looked like
What?
happened to me. I can't believe that Hype actually pulled this game out, but it looked like what happened to me is forcing minions.
God.
So it's the way that the minions get summoned.
Right, exactly. When the battle cry activates, which means there's a token that spawns to the right of Illidan, and then it taunts up that creature instead.
Yeah. Hearthstone Mechanics 101.
Yeah, there you go.
Dan Fodinshu.
It's going to be Miracle Rogue. And he opts to throw everything away. He wants a faster start than that. I don't blame him.
Yep.
Slightly
So
better.
Hyped we know is playing Miracle Rogue, and of course the Forsen. Going with his Warrior control deck here. I think if he didn't play Warrior here, his plan would be really inconsistent with playing the Hunter deck so far. So this hand obviously it's missing Fiery Wind Axe, but enough gas I think to get him through the mid game.
I think so too. Hyped, of course, not on the coin. Doesn't have that extra card. So probably not too happy about that. If Forsen can draw lots of cards though off these Acolytes,
Yep.
he'd be sitting in a pretty decent spot. Now, interesting that I want to bring up a conversation too. Iron Beak Owl over the Spellbreaker. What do you think about that choice, particularly, whether in this deck or in Show's deck, etc.?
I actually like Iron Beak Owl a lot more, and the major reason is just his flexibility. The 2 mana I think is worth I don't feel like paying 2 extra mana for a 4/3 body versus a 2/1 is that big of a deal. But I think that having access to a 2 mana silence over a 4 mana silence is a very big deal. And in this instance, it's already coming into play. So he wants to deny a card draw from his opponent, and he wants to leverage that into a victory at this point. So his game plan is to win via card advantage. I think when he plays this Owl this early on, because he's sacrificing its potential against something like Edwin Vancleave, or even to shut off a Violet Teacher. We see he's got Shield Slam for a Violet Teacher already ready. And this Acolyte of Pain, if he played that while Blood Mage was still active, but just a backstab would kill it. So that's a situation he's trying to avoid a little bit. and Hyped forced to sacrifice that card. He doesn't have an option.
That's right. Forsen's going to pick up the draw. Oh, he has Lotheb as well. So that is a great tool you can use to shut down the miracle draws if your opponent even has Gadget Sand.
I am really surprised he chose to use Shield Block Shield Slam here instead of coining the Sludge Belcher, because the Sludge Belcher is going to hold off the SI7 agent. And then you have Shield Block Shield Slam for Violet Teacher, because I think Violet Teacher is a pretty problematic card in this matchup.
It can be, for sure.
So valuing
you can't
the coin.
deal with it. Does the coin actually bring anything? Like maybe it gets accelerates Ragnaros a little bit if he picks it up.
Well, it can accelerate Ragnaros. I mean, just coin plays in general are pretty good. It can also accelerate Gromosh if you need it to. Or like maybe you need an 11 mana play, like when one of those spots where you have to play Alexstrasza and then coin armor. Or something like that. Like those little tiny things can make a really big difference. Hyped having Conceal and Gadget Zan straight away though.
Mm-hmm.
Good timing.
And one thing
for
that's difficult is that even if you drop Lotheb, if they have second Conceal, they just pass the turn as if nothing happened. You need to have good pressure. That's why I like pointing out this this cool Taskmaster. You need to put out as much damage as possible.
Yeah, Hyped here, even if he had a second Conceal, I mean, he probably just conceals and goes for it anyway, but he's staring down a lot of damage right now. I mean, this is 13 damage on the board, and you're at 23. So with no spells available, not much he can make happen. And of course, we've seen portions of his deck. There's 2 Earthring Farseers. I imagine there's 2 Violet Teachers in here. Something like Sludge Belcher is entirely possible. He's just going to have to sap the Sludge Belcher straight away, which means that this Auctioneer is going to get sacrificed.
I think that's the most reasonable play. You have to make sure to stave off the damage.
Yep.
And, he drew some cards from the Auctioneer. Maybe he has a second one, too. You don't know if he has a second one ready to go.
Yep. And look at this play, though. I like it. I like using the Execute right away. It allows you to develop Hogger. And, again, you're sort of in the same position you just were. You have 11 points of damage on the board. And your opponent's on a low life total. And they don't have anything going for him right now.
See, there are ways to clear.
Hogger's like a glorified Silverhand Knight.
Hogger is oh yeah, I guess so. With Taunt, costs an extra mana. I guess if you put it that way, Hogger's pretty decent value. Eviscerates do clean up the board though. He is holding lots of cards in his hand. I wonder what it is. Has to be some dead cards where he doesn't feel like is appropriate. Maybe
I think he just needs to clear the board out because he's facing down so much damage. So he's trying to restabilize, hoping that Forsen can, maybe he'll stall for a turn. But he just continues to have pressure. Acolyte Bane, again, threatening to get more card advantage. Sludge Belcher, protecting the Acolyte. Just being a nuisance on its own. There's Violet Teacher.
Yep, and a Farseer. So like you said, fighting back.
Yeah, this might be a Harrison Jones turn.
Well, you can also draw with the Acolyte first before you Harrison Jones.
Definitely agree with that.
Let's see. Does the Death Spite change anything here?
I don't think it does. I mean, if he plays a Death Spite, he wants to cool Taskmaster instead. I think I would still prefer to see the Harrison. But he's sitting on a high enough life total that it might not matter that much.
Yeah, not to mention that he also doesn't necessarily need more cards per se. He's got ways to put damage back on his opponent.
Oh wow, he just went for face.
Yeah, why not?
Look at that. I think it's a totally fine plan. I'm curious how much merit there is to attacking the Earthen Ring Farseer instead of his face with the Death Bite. But, that's a lot of damage. You're threatening a lot of pressure here, too. So, your opponent has to be... They become extra weary of the fact that you're going to be dealing damage here.
Here we go. Second Gadget Stand Auctioneer, Admirable. Yeah. That could be his ticket back into this game. Until you get Gromosh, that 9 damage feels so far away. But Hyped hasn't played other spells, so maybe hit a dead end. Oh, never mind. He's got gold coming in. He took a while. I wasn't sure if he didn't hit his preps.
Oh, and a Deadly Poison. A lot of damage, but this is one of the reasons I think that you want to attack the Earthring Farseer too, is you want to prevent your opponent from being able to utilize Cold Blood as much as possible. Hyped actually even backstabbing his own Auctioneer just to pick up extra cards.
And he got the preparation.
Shivving
Shiv
his
gets
opponent.
more cards. As long as he's getting cards and he's not dying, Hyped is still in this game. Second deadly poison.
Deadly poison.
If he preps into Blade Flurry, can you imagine how much damage that is?
Well, Forsen's down to 21, so he's starting to enter a little bit of a danger zone. Ysera definitely not a good pickup, and this Death Spite. How willing are you to attack your opponent's face with this Death Spite here?
Just get Gromosh for the win. Just
Yeah,
draw.
I think it's a pretty.
2 chances to draw.
Yeah, I think it's a really good scenario because now you also have options. So like you're putting your opponent down at 5. You have Big Game Hunter for this Earthen Ring Farseer. You get an extra card. Now you have the option: do you Cruel Taskmaster, or do you pick up even another card?
Oh, is he too many cards? He's counting, making sure.
He's got 9 in hand
Looks
right
like
now.
he's okay.
So this is gonna take him to 10. Do you want to Harrison Jones this turn? That's
I think
something to
so.
think about. Yeah, I think that gains 5 points of health effectively. Yeah, that belongs in a museum. And then the Armor Smith coming down, a really big board from Forsen, and a ton of cards in hand.
It's fine. You still have enough board presence anyways. Hype drew most of his deck, but he doesn't have ways to survive anymore.
So this is something we actually don't know, is what kind of push he has. If he's just playing strictly for value, or if he's got something like, maybe Arcane Golem and Shadow Steps. We haven't seen a Shadow Step in his deck so far.
I don't think if you have Violet Teachers, you're running Shadow Steps. The preparation was a couple of cards off. What else does he have here? Yeah, he had the Blade Flurry. He needed that preparation.
Wow. That one
He had even
stings.
ways to survive.
Yeah, SI7 agent.
I think that's going to be it. Forsen has the damage with
Yep.
Cool Taskmaster and the Fiery War Axe and the Death Spite just for the insurance. Now, how does Forsen choose to do this?
Oh, he's gonna go for
brawl
the
with
back
the
bump,
Armor
yeah.
Smith.
Wow.
No!
And won. Catz didn't lie. It always wins, man.
Oh, man. That is a way to finish the game. And Forsen's going to advance to the winners round 2 off the back of a great played Warrior series from him. His Warrior